Here are my picks for the 20 beginner tips for Insurgency Sandstorm. These tips are in no specific order and some of them can also be applied to other games out there. If you find any of these useful, make sure to subscribe to my channel for more stuff like this. It is the best way to support my work. Thank you so much. Now let's get right into the video. Tip number 1. The best way to learn the gunplay and the game mechanics quickly is to play Domination, and there's actually a couple of reasons for that. Now, in Domination you can use any of the weapons, you spawn instantly after dying and you get a load of action even though the games are not that long, so you can squeeze a lot of games in a short period of time, so I highly suggest starting off with that. You can also learn the game in co-op, but you will never get the true feeling for the PvP if you're limiting yourself to playing against the AI. Tip number 2. You can turn off the annoying ringing of your ears sound in the settings. I know a lot of you guys hate this sound, so it's a good thing we have that setting there. Personally, I have the ringing of your ears on because, I guess I'm just sick or something, I don't know. Tip number 3. You can change the player colors in the settings to make it easier to spot your teammates or just to make the game look that much cooler. Tip number 4. The cosmetics you wear make a massive difference in how easy it is for the enemies to spot you, so make sure to build a couple of sets for different environments found in the game. So you really want to wear like white for snow maps and, sort of dark green and whatnot for the greener maps. It just makes sense, honestly. Tip number 5. Full auto makes it really hard to hit targets at longer range, so make sure you switch to semi-fire to up your chances of hitting those long distance shots. It makes a massive difference, and if you're a really experienced player then you can probably full auto on long ranges as well with some weapons in the game, but most of the time you should always just go for the semi because it's gonna make your life so much easier. Tip number 6. You can actually open doors quietly by aiming down sights while you're opening them. This gives you a massive advantage if you're sneaking around a house and you really want to flank the enemy without them knowing it. Tip number 7. Crouching down drastically reduces recoil, making it a lot easier to take accurate shots quickly. So if you run into an enemy suddenly, you really want to crouch down because A, it makes it easier for you to full auto them or just shoot them all together, and B, it also makes you a smaller target for them, so it's harder for them to shoot you. So it's just a win-win. You really want to just learn to do that. All of the better players in Sandstorm do that, and so should you. Tip number 8. Sandstorm has staged reloading, meaning that if you cancel the reload animation at any point, you will be left without a magazine in the weapon. This is a good thing to know because you might be doing it by accident and then end up wondering why your weapon doesn't work even though you just reloaded it. Tip number 9. You can perform a quick reload by double tapping the reload button. This will however drop the magazine on the ground instead of putting it back in your inventory, meaning that you will lose any of the bullets you had left in those magazines. Tip number 10. You can run through Molotovs if you're on full health. This is an amazing thing to know because it allows you to catch unsuspecting enemies by a complete surprise. I've done this in so many situations where enemies have blocked off a corridor by using Molotovs, and then I've just ran through the molly and taken them out because they don't expect you to come from there because they think that the Molotov should kill the enemies, but it doesn't. Tip number 11. The more stuff you have on, the heavier you are, making you an easier target to hit, so it's not a bad idea to really think through the gear you want to use. Tip number 12. Sounds are a massive part of this game, and learning to listen for the footsteps and different audio cues can help you win most of the fights before they even really begin. It is insanely easy to get a drop on someone when you can hear them running around the corner or coughing in the side full of smoke. I can't put enough emphasis on how important this tip is because that's how I win most of the time, by actually just hearing where the enemy is and what he's doing, because I can hear if they're reloading, I can hear if they're aiming down sights, I can hear if they're getting pinned down by my teammates. There's so many things you can do by just hearing out what is going on around you. Tip number 13. This sort of goes with the tip before. Enemies close to you can always hear you use voice chat, even if you're using the team radio, so be aware of this. If you're giving your teammates any sort of info, the enemies will be able to know exactly where you are because it's really easy to pinpoint voice chat and whatnot through the walls. Tip number 14. You should always keep moving and switching up your positions after getting a couple of kills, because those people that you have just killed know exactly where you are, and when they spawn in for the next time, they will be coming to hunt you down, and they know exactly where you are, so it is just not that smart to sit in the same spot. However, this does not mean running around the map like you're playing Call of Duty. It's pretty much as simple as just switching to a different corner in the objective you're capturing. Like, it's really that simple. Tip number 15. If you like using lots of grenades and flashbangs, you should definitely equip the quick draw grip on your main weapon. It only costs a single point, and it makes some of the animations like switching your weapons that much quicker. Tip number 16. Smokes are absolutely essential for moving forward as long as you're using them correctly. You should always aim to pop the smokes as close to the enemy's position as possible for it to be the most effective. This way it will block the enemy's line of sight completely and give you a good window of opportunity to move forward and capture those points. Do not, however, pop the smokes close to you or your teammates, because it will only make it harder for your team to see absolutely anything, and it will also give the enemies the upper hand. So you're basically just playing for the enemy team at that point, so be really careful when using smokes. Tip number 17. Laser sights can be really useful, but they can also be seen by the enemies pretty easily, and it will always pretty much just give your location away, so you might want to rethink using one. Tip number 18. Holding down the reload button shows how many magazines you have left, and it also shows a rough estimate of how many rounds you have in those magazines. Tip number 19. Always use as much cover as you possibly can. This might seem obvious to some of you, but I'm still going to say it. Using cover in this game is crucial. Running in the open without any cover, even for a little bit, is a death sentence unless you have some really good map knowledge and you are absolutely sure of your surroundings. Tip number 20. You can replay your old games to see what went wrong and what you can improve on. This will also help you see what the enemies did better and how the actual pros in that game played, and you can just learn from their style of playing. It's a really good thing to have, and I think a lot of other games should really implement that in their games as well. But yeah, that's really all the tips I've got for you guys today. I know there are a lot of the same tips that I've mentioned in my previous tips and tricks video, which I will be leaving a link to in the description below in case you want to check out that one as well, because it does have some tips that I didn't mention here that you might want to know. So yeah, maybe you want to check out that as well. But yeah, even though this video shares some of the same tips as the last one, I really wanted to make this again because I know that there's so many new players right now because of the next gen update and whatnot. So yeah, if you found any of these tips useful, make sure to hit that like button and let me know down in the comments below if you want to see more tips for Insurgency Sandstorm. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.